Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Living Ageless and Bold. Today, my guest is Paula Jager. She is a fitness professional. She's been doing that since the mid-90s, but her life has not always been an easy journey. And we're going to talk about in 2008, she kind of hit rock bottom, struggling with alcoholism and business failures. And a few months later, she found CrossFit. And that changed her life. And now she is 65. She owns her own CrossFit facility in Tampa. And she is just passionate about fitness and health and helping people with that and personal freedom. So Paula, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you've had quite a journey. I always like to go back in time because it takes a journey to get you where you are today. So talk about your life back in the 90s when things were a lot different.
Well, in the 90s, let's see, I had went to college for dental hygiene. And once I graduated, I hated it. I found myself in a job I didn't like. My husband and I were dating at the time. We partied way too much. And at 40, I decided to leave the profession and do what I love. Because fitness, I began to see a way out of the edge I was always trying to numb with alcohol.
That's a huge step, first of all. To anybody listening or watching, if you're in that position and you can find that one thing that for Paula was fitness. But did you know, had you always been into fitness, or did you just go to a class and then thought, I can embrace this to help me get rid of this?
It was 1995. I had an aha moment. I saw some vacation pictures where we were in the Keys. I had a beer in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and a little pooch. I was about to turn 35. And that was
and real quick, I just want everyone to know that was a thing. If you saw pictures of me back then too, I would have a cigarette in one hand, a beer in another. That was the lifestyle back then. That was kind of before we had a lot of internet, before you saw health things every day, on your phone. But that was, if people our age, that's, I always say there's no judging on my show because we've all been there. Okay. So you see the picture and you have the aha moment.
The aha moment, and my birthday's in January. So it was December. I enlist a trainer. And I join a gym and I meet with the trainer once a week, stayed with him for about 6 months. And he said, it's about as far as you could take it. You're doing really good. Oh. We fired that trainer and we hired a female trainer who I wanted to look like her, be like her. Yeah. And after 6 months of training with her, I stopped drinking and trained intensely for a year for a bodybuilding competition and stepped on stage in a bikini at 37. And I had lost 20 pounds to get there.
I was going to say, I have a girlfriend who did the bodybuilding. And, you kind of I spent a year training. Tell people what's involved in that year of training because you're eating differently, you're working out. I mean, you're changing your entire body composition.
Oh, it changed my body composition. It changed my mindset. I said to myself, I am either going to step up on that stage and perform, or I'm going to die trying. And I kept that mentality. Towards the end, it was 24/7. It's extreme. It's nothing I would recommend to a novice, but I did it. It was, you measured your food. I worked out 5 or 6 days a week. There was practicing walking in heels, which was never my forte. And for the posing, there was a posing routine. So you also had to get up there to music. And I was a little stage shy at that, I had never performed like that before. And I remember eating asparagus with sweet blow on them along with my protein. I mean, it was terrible. It was a one and done, I'll tell you that. But I did accomplish it. Get up there.
But that also got you to stop drinking.
It did. And smoking. So,
okay.
Yeah, two vices. Yes.
Yeah. And that's not easy because when I met my husband, he was not a smoker. And I am, and people who listen know this, I'm first generation American. My parents are German. I mean, I was 15 years old, smoking cigarettes with my parents in the family room. Like that was our normal lifestyle. That's what German kids did. I mean, Europeans, it was common to drink and smoke. And, it was just a very different lifestyle. So that's not easy to just quit smoking.
Especially when people around you are still partaking, or at least the friends I had at that time. Yeah.
So how did all of that shift your mindset? So that's a year of, and so I had a father who was an alcoholic and smoked, and he would kind of stop one vice for another vice. Like he stopped drinking and then, he would go to this. And when you are an alcoholic and you've talked about this, you are open about it. I'm not pulling anything out. But did this become almost an obsession for you to kind of like, okay, this is how I'm going to stop drinking. Now I'm going to do this.
It did. After the show, then, I could eat again. And, then you probably ate too much sugar, which is often a substitute for alcohol. But I did find balance with that. But I was obsessed with the working out and also with the competing, because that gave me a goal. That gave me something to focus on. I had become best friends with the trainer, the female trainer, and we were both obsessed. She was fighting her own demons, although they were different. So we traveled to bodybuilding shows. I watched her compete. She took it to a big level in Europe. And then she got me into running obstacle course races a few years later. So that was the next competition.
And it is amazing. And everyone, again, if you're watching this, go back and listen to my interview with Ginny McCall, because we have a great story. You would love it too, Paula. At 61, she couldn't do a pull-up. She had been a Broadway dancer, and then she retired from everything to have kids. And her daughter is one of the top American Ninja warriors, competitors. And she was like, I want to do that. And she spent a year with a trainer so she could do one pull-up. 10 years later, at the age of 71, she broke the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest female ninja. Which is amazing.
That's really hard. That requires gymnastics, and that's a whole different element of competition.
But I love that you're talking about, 37, you did this, and in your 40s, you did this, and we're going to get into, because you're in your 60s, which we did a little test last night, and I texted her. I said, are you sure you're 65? Wow.
Positive. Look at the lines.
Oh, you look fantastic. And that's what a good, you're healthy and you feel good. So anyway, but you were talking about, then you got into the obstacles, and again, you're getting older and older and just doing these amazing things. I love it.
Well, it wasn't a long course. It was a 160-yard course with a military-style obstacles. It had a monkey bar, a cargo net, a wall that you scaled, and the goal was to do it in under a minute. Well, the first time, I was not an athlete. I didn't start anything athletic till I was 35. And the first time I did it, I got in my own head. I compared myself to others. My self-esteem still wasn't where it needed to be. And I ran it in 1 minute and 26 seconds, which, to me, I had failed. and I didn't flip over the cargo net. I chickened out, and I, just walked down it. So that ate away at me for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I came back.
So what did you do to overcome that?
Well, it kept eating away at me and eating away at me. And I'm like, I want to come back. I want to flip over that cargo net. So there was a woman that was known as the obstacle course queen, who trained out of Orlando. And I went and did privates with her. And I finally climbed over the cargo net. And then I went back to practice at the competition place. And that day they had someone from television filming. ABC Action News was going to be there. And they caught me going over the cargo net. And I got up to the top and I just flipped right over. And that was a feel good moment. It was like I had redeemed myself, only to me. That was
do you have the ABC footage? Did you keep it? Like you could just watch it on replay?
Probably could find it somewhere. I have a lot of that stuff on VHS. That was in 2004. So I was 44 and I went on to compete in the obstacle course competitions for 3 more years.
Amazing. Well, I love that because that's just a great story of persistence and you got knocked down and you got knocked down for a couple of years and pulled yourself back up. And at any age, it's possible to get over that hump.
Yeah. And I finally ran it in under a minute, 59:69.
And then you're done. Then you don't have to do it anymore. You hit your goal. Okay. So let's talk about your CrossFit because that has become such a huge part of your life and it got you into this and it got you to not drink and it got you healthy and you actually ended up buying your own CrossFit. I guess, is it a franchise?
It's an affiliate. You pay a licensing fee. I opened a gym in 2002, but it was a personal training studio, more like a boutique. And I loved fitness, but I didn't know a thing about business. So we were in a really high-priced retail center, and it was failing. 2008 struggles, and I had started drinking again after a 6-year hiatus. And just everything was crumbling till the end of 2008.
Okay. So, and again, you made it through because you're here with me right now. We're having a lovely conversation. So how did you've had these great ups and down and up, and then you hit back down. What got you back up?
Well, let's see. It was 2008, November. Our lease was up. I was done. I was going to, the economy was really tanking and people were giving up their personal trainers.
Yes.
So my husband and I decided I was going to just take my clients and go somewhere, the ones I still had, and go somewhere else and train them. I was hanging on by a thread. My husband said, wait, I'm going to work a deal with the landlord. I'm like, whatever. He was a real estate broker. In the meantime, I needed to find myself again and find my discipline. So I went to a local CrossFit gym that had opened up. Someone told me about it. And it was dirty. It was outdoors. There was chalkboard walls that said, suck it up, buttercup. And there were chains and pull-up rigs. And I was in heaven. And there was a short, wonderful, called Master Diaz. And he was a Tampa police officer, and he ran the CrossFit classes, and I got my butt kicked. I mean, there were girls, just wow. And so I went back, and he and I clicked. I love that military style drill sergeant, but he was a cool guy. He would test me in just the right ways. He knew how to push me. And I kept going back. And 3 weeks later, I just said, I'm done. I'm going forward. And that was almost 17 years ago. I haven't touched a drink since. My husband worked out a deal with a landlord and got our rent reduced by 75%.
Wow. Well, that's a negotiation.
5%. I shut the AC off, turned it into a CrossFit gym, rebuilt the business, and 6 years later, they never raised it. So we saved enough money and we moved into a bigger location in 2013.
Wow. So how long have you had your CrossFit?
Since 2009. Once I 3 weeks. Yeah, it's been a ride.
Wow. Okay. So you're now 65. Right. You own a CrossFit and talk, because you mentioned it a little bit, but the chains and the ropes and CrossFit is, I would have the name tag on that said, just call me Buttercup. I don't know. That's an intense, amazing, intense workout.
But it's very scalable. It mainly comprises of strength training. Now, heavy weights, heavy to your abilities. We scale it for everyone. And some people start off with body weight because you don't want to get injured. You don't want to hurt yourself and you want this to be sustainable. Body weight exercises. And then here's the kicker, high intensity interval training. And that's the stuff that just leaves you gasping and sweating. It empowers you. It takes you out of your comfort zone. And I've been able to apply that to other areas of my life, because if I don't get out of my comfort zone, I'm not going to grow.
And you've had a lot of things happen, especially the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That again, when I read your story, I'm like, wow, this woman, she's been knocked down and gets up and knocked down and gets up. And you had a pretty bad 2022.
Yeah, it started in 2020 and it was that I've never been that broken, like just emotionally and mentally and physically. I mean, I didn't succumb to any of my vices, but
that says so much, Paula, really. I mean, that would have been the easiest thing to do.
It would have, and it would have been the most disappointing to those that I cared about the most, and it wasn't going to help me.
So were you impacted by COVID? Did you have to close your gym? Probably, right?
We had to close for 6 weeks. I was fortunate to be in the state of Florida. And my husband's health started failing in early 2020. And there was something else I was passionate about. And I took a part-time 8-month remote job. So I was working that. I started in March. They closed the gym in April. So it ended up being a blessing because it was some income coming in, which allowed me to sustain the hit from COVID. And that went on till November of that year that I worked the second job remote. And
then your husband did not.
No, he got worse and worse. He wasn't able to work. So we were down to one income. I had to shut down his business. I had to take care of him. I was pretty much a caretaker, and then I had to run the gym because, to pay the bills and everything. And he passed in May of 2022. Well, my father passed a year before him.
Yeah.
And my cat 3 months later.
Again, I was reading it. I'm like, wow, you always say you're only given as much as you can handle. What's your quote that you say? What doesn't
kill you makes you stronger. Yeah, I had to reread that a couple of times, because it almost killed me. It was the most devastating thing I've ever been to. I've had a pretty good life, except for some mistakes I made and things of my own making. But, I was blessed with a wonderful family and, a beautiful marriage. And yeah, that's been hard to come back from.
Yeah. And how long were you married?
We were together 37 years.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I was 24 when I met him.
Wow. That's, but here you are and you're doing great. And so what have you done? I always say, if we can inspire one person who's listening, just one, to hear your story and say, oh God, that's me. And, what have you done since then to stay afloat? Because really, when things like that happen at the beginning, that's what you're doing is, how do I just breathe and get through this?
Well, I initially decided I would take up gymnastics and go back and run the obstacle course.
And I'm sorry, at what age was this?
62. Because, I wasn't broken or anything like that. Yeah, well, that didn't last too long. And my body...
I always wanted to do the splits. Let me try at 62.
Yeah, my body said no. So we just started to heal, and I backed things down a little bit. I think I just did whatever I had to do for my husband, and and then I had to settle my father's estate, and I had to run the gym, and there was no stopping. There was no one else to do that, and I was going to be there for him. So then I just turned to a lot of self-care. I saw a chiropractor that helped with stretching. for my hip that when I tried to hurdle again at 62.
Okay, keep going. I just have to process every time you say something like that. It's just, okay.
I'm like, where was my head? I don't think that's what I need right now. I think I need to get this grief out, but maybe not through hurdling. So that helped. And I started, coming back. I found some good supplements that I started taking and that I started promoting in the gym, which just basically led me to some more friends and a different group of people, which was some learning and growth. And then I started doing acupuncture. And that was really helped me take the healing to another notch. It balanced my energy. I have so much energy and I just don't always channel it in the proper directions. So that helped. And then I also began doing yin yoga, which is the opposite of CrossFit. It's a stretching, meditative, slow, and that helped to balance me out. So a lot of self-care. I'm blessed to have a good family support system and some good friends and the community at the gym. And that's pretty much, I'm still doing all of those things. That's got me to where I am now, just trying to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. Because
well, you're writing a book talking about all of this. Let's talk a little bit about that and when that might be done.
Well, my hard goal is 70, but hopefully way before then. I've actually started it. I'm on chapter 3. For years, I had a weakness for historical romance novels where, there's a hero and a heroine and he fights dragons for her and he saves her and, she saves him and back and forth and they live happily ever after. And my husband would always tell me, PJ, that's BS. That's not what real life is like. And I always thought we would have a happy ever after and we didn't get that. So I'm calling the book Forever in My Heart and I'm writing a lot of my life story up until his passing. And that's going to be the first book.
Well, 37 years, a lot of people don't get 37 years.
They don't.
Of, just in terms of your age, you thought it would go a lot longer.
Well, I did. And he was 11 years older. So,
Yeah. And let's talk about your podcast.
Yes. It just kind of, everything's been coming to me. I've been getting signs. And they say you need to, you're the expert. So any advice you'd like to impart, I'll take. The subject matter is going to be 3 of my favorite passions, one of which is a tad controversial. But everyone says you need to be authentic and you do need to do what lights your fire. So it's going to be, it's called Living Right. And there's a pun in there. It is about fitness because moving, being healthy, because so many people are sedentary and they don't, in front of the computers all day long. It's going to be about health and in the right foods. I do not feel like our healthcare system's where it should be and too many drugs, too much surgery, going towards the holistic and getting the toxins out of our food. And it's also about personal freedom and a little bit of politics. I won't dive into that since a lot of people don't like to touch that. But it's all part of it because I'm very patriotic and I don't like the direction that our country was going in. So, but I have great hope for the next
What makes
few
a
years.
podcast good is when it is your authentic self. This podcast came about when a certain CNN anchor referred to when Nikki Haley was running, and he said she was 56 and she was washed up. And then I started doing some research and found out he was 56. And I'm like, whoa. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. This was a girl power. And my husband, I've been with my husband for a long time. And he said, literally, he could just see this everything spinning in my head. And I'm like, that's it. I'm doing this podcast. I'm going to talk about women who are over 50 and share their stories and their journeys. You're incredible. I mean, just to inspire just one person. And I've gotten, stories from people who've listened to an episode and we've changed their lives. So that's my passion. And not everybody wants to talk about women over 50. So you do you, and you're going to find your audience that is passionate about the same things that you are. And, they always say the more niche you are, the better. So do your authentic self. And there are probably people listening here who will tune in. What did you say what it was called?
Living right.
Living right. Yeah.
You get the pun.
I got it. No, I got it. So give me, because you are the health and, a health and wellness expert, and you're 65. So let's give, one or two tips for somebody listening or watching who's like, okay, I'm ready to, I haven't lived healthy. I haven't worked out. I haven't done what I should do. And I want to start today. What should they do?
Number one would be the physical. Start exercising. The most important thing you can do is lift weights. I think that's the number one thing, especially for us women as we age. I would recommend, if they can, to enlist the help of a professional so that they don't get hurt, to be patient, to start slow and build gradually, and start body weight. Start some type of resistance. That could be as simple as a body weight squat or even a push up. And if you can't afford a trainer, you can, there's so many videos out there.
Right. YouTube is, my daughter was over and she's like, Mom, take my yoga class with me. And it was, recorded. And I was like, oh, okay. And then yoga is not for me at 58, jumping up and down, up and down. I was but your body weight, you can just go on a wall and do a wall push-up. And I was just watching something, and I've seen this before. And again, you can YouTube this. Even, just starting out, use a bottle of water, as a weight, and work your way up to the laundry detergent. If you've tried to lift your laundry detergent containers, they're heavy. That's hard. But
water jugs are good also.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do at home. And if you don't have a gym membership or you're not ready to jump right in there.
And I'm a huge proponent of walking. I walk every single day. And I've had so many amazing experts on, they talk about, just the sun and what it does to your circadian rhythm, and the fresh air and the vitamin, the fresh vitamin D that you get from the sun, and just start. You don't have to walk 8 miles a day. You can walk to the end of the street and back. And then maybe next week you walk, up and down the street twice. And it just, like, if I don't walk, I don't feel good. Like my brain, I need it for my brain power.
Yeah, definitely. It clears the mind. But that's what I mean about being progressive. You could start with a walk to the mailbox if that's all you can do. And then maybe a walk and a half, and then 2 times, and then venture out to the street. And like you said, you're getting the sunshine. And drinking plenty of water. Nutrition is huge. People are eating a lot of processed foods. So I was cutting back on processed foods and seed oils, and just eating more real food. I just
read an email from one of our past guests. I didn't know what seed oils were. Why don't you just talk about that? I had no idea how bad they are for you and what they are.
They're very bad. They're highly processed fats from the vegetable oil fats, and they will wreak havoc on the body. The good fats would be grass-fed butter or beef tallow. And if you've seen in the news, a couple of the chains are going back to making their fries in beef tallow like they did in the 50s and the 60s, because it's so much healthier than all those seed oils once they, our body can't process those. And I believe that's one of the factors that's leading to a lot of lifestyle related diseases and cancers. Of course, there's no proof, but I'm not going to live long enough for the proof. So I'm going to stick to butter, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil those are so much better.
Somebody, it was one of my guests said, and you just said the beef tallow back to the 50s. If your grandmother didn't serve it, you probably don't want to serve it either.
That's a great analogy.
Isn't that great? And you think about what you ate with your grandparents. There was none of this stuff. There were no chicken nuggets and goldfish and, things of colors that are not natural in food. I mean, you ate protein and vegetables, and I was German. We ate a lot of bread, but it was
my husband.
Fresh. Yeah. But I thought that was fascinating. And hearing you say that, we really need to be smart about what we eat. And I feel so guilty because I didn't know about any of this in raising kids. We did what you did when you had kids in the late 90s.
What you thought was best. I mean, there's many things that I didn't start doing until later in life because I didn't know.
Right. And that's important that we can start. You can start today. I just started in my 50s getting much healthier, eating healthier, more exercise, lifting weights. I've not been doing that my whole life. And you can change today by making lifestyle changes.
Yeah. And it's like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. I know that's a well-worn cliche, but if you try to do everything at once, most people, myself included, are not going to stick with it. Right. So, one step each week, each month, and then they all add up when you look back a few months later.
Well, Paula, this was great. Everyone who's listening and watching, if you know someone who needs to be inspired, who needs a lifestyle change, who might be knocked down right now and needs to see somebody who got back up, please share this episode. And Paula, I end every episode with the same 2 questions of my guests. What is the greatest thing you've accomplished since you turned 50?
Okay, that would have to be in 2019, and I was 59, and I had started competing in powerlifting in 2018, and I was finally going to a big competition. There were 3 lifts. For those that don't know anything about powerlifting, that's the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift, and you compete in your age group and weight class. So there was a narrower playing field, but I broke 3 state records in Florida at the age of 59.
Amazing.
I had never squatted, benched, or deadlift that much weight in my entire lifting career. And I did it on stage at that competition. And we had 20 other people, a group of women. It was an all women's competition. And so I had 20 of my community there with me. A lot of them did the CrossFit part, but it was an awesome day.
And then I can't wait to hear how you answer this one. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, not in an old folks home for sure. I see the podcast taking off. I see myself with at least 2 to 3 books published. And I also see myself involved somehow, some way in a political administration.
There's a lot going on with health and wellness.
Health related.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a part in making America healthy again.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Paula Jager, thank you so much for joining me. It was really just a great conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Enjoyed it very much.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.